Tesla in Germany. Local officials just outside Berlin are now apparently indefinitely postponing a vote on Tesla's plan to expand its factory just outside the capital.
In this video, Tesla makes a major strategic change which could see them benefit to the tune of billions of dollars. The red tape encrusted bureaucratic laughingstock of the entire world, Germany, continues to slow Tesla down. What a surprise. Plus a look at the utterly insane exponential growth of EV adoption, which is making a joke out of all the experts' predictions. And before we get into it, if you want to instantly unlock over 100 exclusive videos, plus my 10-year Tesla stock price targets and loads of other perks, including optional access to my Tesla valuation model, join our growing community of thousands of supporters on Patreon with the link in the pinned comment. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment-themed merch in the merch store. So, first of all, who doesn't love a bit of red tape and bureaucracy? People who want to get shit done. That's who. Lucky for Tesla, they definitely don't have a factory in Germany, and therefore they're not going to be experiencing any unnecessary slowdowns, and I won't be pointing, laughing, ridiculing, and mocking one of the most embarrassing countries on the entire planet when it comes to getting things done. And I'm sure even my German viewers will agree, after they've held about 72 independent meetings to determine whether or not I'm right. Now look, I admit I'm an impatient motherfucker. I'm the kind of guy who will get shit done or tell you to get the fuck out of my way. Seeing this stuff in Germany is just killing me. Let's see the latest slowdown in Tesla's efforts to change the world.
Tesla in Germany. Local officials just outside Berlin are now apparently indefinitely postponing a vote on Tesla's plan to expand its factory just outside the capital.
German officials indefinitely postponing a vote. Of course, I don't want to get all tinfoil hat on you guys and girls, so I'm not going to say anything at all to do with German automotive manufacturers and incentives to slow Tesla's progress down in Germany. That would never happen. But I do just want to emphasize, we are talking about an indefinite postponement, complete uncertainty as to when this will be resolved, if at all. This is the same country that's been consistently virtue signaling about clean energy and transitioning, and then at the same time becoming more and more dependent on oil from Russia, and well, we know how that worked out. So I think what I'm trying to say is red tape and bureaucracy and indefinite postponements of important decisions to allow companies like Tesla, who will actually meet Germany's stated goals, well, that's not a problem at all. There can't be any adverse consequences. And if you disagree, you're just a racist, white supremacist, Nazi, fascist, build a wall, some shit Trump supporter. Now please, don't misinterpret these comments. I don't hate Germans or Germany, but I am willing to call a spade a spade. When you care more about signaling virtue than actually making the positive change you claim to care about, these kind of things take place.
Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers. It has been the formal policy of our country since...
I couldn't help but notice people rudely laughing at these rather prophetic comments from Orange Man Bad just 4 years ago. Obviously, these comments have aged rather well. Now, the reason for playing that clip is not because I'm a raging Orange Man Bad fan. Far from it, the guy has some serious issues, but instead, just to set the scene. Seems to be a common trend, a recurring theme. Poor decision making. Very poor decision making in Germany as it relates to energy independence, sustainable energy, and getting shit done that needs to be done. Back to the latest update from the German red tape slowing Tesla down.
Let's talk about what is happening here, what that expansion would look like. We're joined on set by Bloomberg's Craig Trudell, who oversees our global auto coverage. Craig, walk me through what is happening here. We've got the site. The site is obviously kind of up and running. We're going to be looking at cars coming out of it. But there was an expansion of rail yards, all these kind of other things that Tesla wanted to build around this original project.
Right, and that's the key here in terms of assessing how big a deal this is. I mean, we're not talking necessarily about, a hard and fast going from such and such number of vehicles per week to another number. This may be a case where sort of on the margins, it helps them run more smoothly, boost production a little bit. It has to do with stockpiling parts, improving rail links. I think one of the big questions is just how much this is a reflection of, the sort of supply chain chaos. Elon Musk has described this as supply chain hell. Yeah. The idea that they're trying to, make space and kind of actually put in place, an expansion to stockpile parts sort of does suggest some breakdown in the way that supply chains for the auto industry usually work. Usually you want just in time and not to stockpile a whole lot of parts.
Why is this a problem? What are the local authorities saying? What was this vote about? And why is it being resisted?
Apparently we have some breaking footage from the folks involved in this decision, rationalising why they've postponed making a decision indefinitely. Cue clip.
Tesla, you're moving way too fast and it's scaring us because it's too fast. What if we have to make a decision and the decision isn't perfect? We need you to slow down, and we're so scared of making a decision, we're going to postpone making a decision indefinitely so we don't even have to commit to when we have to make a decision because you're going too fast and it's scary.
Yeah, this was a report by the broadcaster RBB. It's a little unclear exactly what sorts of things need to be clarified in order for this vote to proceed and this to get put back on the agenda. The wording of this report is a little bit vague in terms of what exactly authorities are hung up on. But this is also just sort of in keeping with what we've seen for what we saw for months before Musk was able to open this plant back in March. You heard Tesla complain about irritating difficulties with getting approvals, and so this is more where that came from essentially.
In fairness, this should surprise literally nobody because it is Germany, famous for bureaucracy, red tape, slowdowns, 400 meetings about the meetings before the meetings about the meeting to decide when the meeting about the thing will actually take place and so on. Just take one look at VW's corporate structure to get an insight into the entire country. And again, I'm not ripping on German people, I'm just pointing out facts. So more delays shouldn't surprise anyone. Strategically, it's essential for Tesla to be producing vehicles in Germany. They needed to do this. It's a good thing Tesla is a strong swimmer because they're currently swimming through a pool of molasses. And stick with me, folks, because Tesla's about to drop the hammer.
I think the company has talked about this idea that Germany needs to go through this industrial transformation and that this sort of bureaucracy is really standing in the way.
Craig, does this open the door to other EV makers in Germany to play a little catch-up? Does it at all inhibit Musk's ability to sell EVs there if they don't make them there?
I think it's possible that it maybe on the margins helps some of the other companies, but I think everybody's in a situation where they just can't make enough EVs right now to meet demand, and you're seeing and hearing about waiting lists months and even more than a year out for certain models. This is a case where everybody's having a hard time keeping up. The chip crisis is continuing to be an issue. I think there's still a real open question just how much the energy crisis in Europe will have an inhibiting effect on production, because it is the process of making batteries is after all a very energy intensive process. So there doesn't necessarily seem to be any sort of relief in sight for anybody. So this may be just a case of another way in which localizing production for Tesla is set back a bit, and maybe extends the amount of time they need to continue relying on the plant in Shanghai to supplement the plant near Berlin.
So you know how I said Tesla was about to drop the hammer? Well, here it comes. So here we are over on the Ball Seep Journal. Tesla shifts battery strategy as it seeks US tax credits. Climate law has accelerated race to make batteries and their ingredients in the US. By the way, this article is being claimed as breaking news. It's not. It was covered in the Tesla community a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, let's move on. Tesla is pausing plans to make battery cells in Germany. Now, those of you who wonder, wait, what does it even matter? You see, if Tesla's making battery cells in Germany, there's more jobs, more economic activity. This is a big boon for Germany. As the article states, Tesla are now pausing plans, and they're not doing this to spite Germany or the red tape or bureaucracy. Although if Germany had rolled the red carpet out for Tesla instead of consistently fucking them in the ass trying to slow their progress down, maybe things pan out a little differently. Last I recall, maybe close to a year ago, Tesla, who was actually entitled to an enormous amount of subsidies in Germany, said, we don't even want them. Of course, we'll never know how things would have played out. We just know how things are playing out. So, Tesla is pausing, not stopping, but pausing temporarily, keyword pausing, plans to make battery cells in Germany as it looks at qualifying for US electric vehicle and battery manufacturing tax credits. People familiar with the matter said, the company, which has been working to produce its own batteries, has discussed shipping cell-making equipment it had intended for use at its Berlin area factory to the US, people said again. How's that on the German economy? Less jobs, less manufacturing activity. At least temporarily. Making more batteries domestically could help Tesla qualify for additional tax breaks available under the Inflation Induction Act, also known as the IRA. President Biden signed into law last month. The law provides production tax credits that could offset more than a third of the cost of EV battery packs, analysts say, and this is true fair, and enormous. Also completely unnecessary. But if free money's on the table and your Tesla, you got the choice. Do we ramp up 4680s in Austin and Berlin? Or do we just focus on ramping them up in Austin and benefit more from the credits? I mean, you'd have to be a moron not to. So long as the rechargeable cells are made and packaged in the US, it also extends a $7,500 tax credit available to buyers of certain EVs whose batteries meet various sourcing requirements. Tesla's move reflects how the new US law is reshaping the EV industry, accelerating the race to secure domestic supplies of battery cells and related ingredients. For the record, I think this is a very good move in general. Forget about the enormous amount of spending. Putting that to the side for the moment, I think it's very important for the US. Not securing a domestic supply chain of lithium-ion batteries in the US means that countries that US isn't necessarily on the friendliest of terms with somewhat have them by the balls. In the days after the bill became law, the company told Texas officials that it was scouting regional sites for a plant that would refine lithium, a key battery input that today is mostly processed in China. The shift in Tesla's battery strategy comes as energy costs in Europe have soared as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Why do I get the feeling that Orange Man Bad kind of called this ahead of time? And going back to those earlier comments from Orange Man Bad back in 2018 when the Germans were literally laughing at it and going, oh guys, becoming dependent on Russian oil is not a good thing. General Motors co-executive director for EV raw materials said discussions with outside companies to build out a US battery supply chain have heated up since law took effect. And by the way, just for the record, Tesla was already working on this before there were any incentives. Now everyone's scrambling to get their hands on some of the money. Quote, our thought process was that we could do this over a period of time. But with the Inflation Induction Act, we are actively working on figuring out how to accelerate, he said. GM in the past year has invested in companies and struck long-term deals to secure future supplies of lithium, cobalt, and other battery materials. And this is true, fair, and it is a good sign. At least they're starting to do what they needed to be doing a decade ago. You did it, Mary, you led. Today, the US plays a relatively small role in making the lithium-ion batteries that power EVs, and a smaller one in producing the raw and intermediate ingredients that compose battery cells. For example, China processes more than 2/3 of all nickel and cobalt globally, compared to 1% or less of each material for the US, according to research. The Inflation Induction Act seeks to ease that disparity by incentivizing car makers and battery companies to invest in a US supply chain and reduce their reliance on China. Pay very close attention, Tesla investors. Among those incentives is a $35 per kilowatt hour credit for US-made battery cells. This is fucking nuts. I mean, nuts. Honestly. Ridiculous. Complete overspending. It's fucking madness. As a Tesla investor, I'll take it. But this is ridiculous. This is so over the top. It's absurd. I honestly don't think they've done the math here. I think they're reliant upon expert predictions, and I use the term expert extremely loosely, on EV adoption and how quickly battery production is actually going to grow. Because if they've done the math on this would come close to bankrupting the United States. If you guys are curious, do the math. This is thousands of dollars per vehicle produced. Thousands of dollars per vehicle. The law also affords a $10 per kilowatt hour for domestically produced modules or collections of cells, and additional assistance for companies making raw and intermediate battery materials in the US. Long story short, Tesla is going to benefit enormously from this. Imagine you're going about your business, doing your day-to-day thing, no change in your particular plans, and somebody's go, hey, we're going to pay you a lot of money for all the things you were already going to do. Who's going to say no to that? But of course, now Tesla has the option. Well, Germany continues to fuck us in the arse and slow us down. Why don't we bring the cells we're intending on producing in Germany back to the US to benefit more from these incentives in a country that isn't constantly fucking us in the arse and slowing us down? And then we'll start ramping up 4680 cells in Germany later. If all those production credits applied, a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack, such as those used in the long-range version of Tesla's Model Y compact sport utility vehicle, could see its cost drop by nearly 40%. Is that all? Now remember, Tesla already has insane wait times. They've already had to massively increase their prices. Tesla doesn't need to lower the price of their vehicles. So if their costs are falling by these numbers, bro, we are talking about them printing multiple billions of dollars. It's a joke, but I'll take it. Tesla and one of its cell suppliers, Panasonic, share a Nevada battery factory and are likely to be among the biggest early beneficiaries of those battery production incentives, analysts say. And again, going back to the whole point, they haven't done the fucking math. By the time they do the math, the incentives that go to Tesla alone will probably be significantly more than they planned on giving to every company in the United States over the next decade. Tesla has also been trying its hand at manufacturing cells in-house, an effort designed to reduce the cost of a key component, the key component, I would argue, and mitigate the risk of battery shortages. The company has been producing those new larger cells at a pilot facility in Fremont, California, and had been planning to do so at its factories in the Austin area and outside of Berlin. The techno king of Tesla, often erroneously referred to as the chief executive, Elon Musk, has long discussed the importance of boosting cell supply, saying recently that, quote, lithium batteries are the new oil. Traditional car makers, including Government Motors and Ford Motor Company, are also expected to benefit from the tax credits as they race to open new battery factories through joint ventures with Korean cell manufacturers. Quote, "It almost seems too good to be true from a battery maker's perspective." And again, it kind of is too good to be true because they haven't done the math. These incentives will not be around as long as they were meant to be, in my opinion. Government Motors and its partner LG Energy Solution started battery cell production last month at a plant in Ohio and have 2 more factories in the works. Ford's joint venture with SK Innovation is planning 2 battery factories in Kentucky and 1 in Tennessee. And last month, LG and Honda Motor Company said they plan to build a $4.4 billion battery factory in the US, targeting mass production by the end of 2025. Better late than never. It couldn't be determined how battery cell makers and auto giants will divide the rewards of the production tax credits, or how much may get passed on to consumers in vehicle pricing. RBC Capital Markets, in a research note this week, said the tax credit for US battery production could deliver $3 billion to GM by 2025, if the company hits its goal of selling 1 million EVs in North America that year. Putting GM's goal to the side for a moment, we all know Tesla's going to be selling significantly more EVs in the United States than GM at any point in the future, especially 2025. So if you thought $3 billion was a lot, do the math on Tesla. It is also likely to be easier to qualify for the production credits than it will be for consumers to receive the $7,500 tax break, which has been in place since 2009. That is because the climate law essentially disqualifies from the consumer tax break vehicles that get battery raw materials or components from China, which currently dominates the supply chain. The production credits have no such restriction. You really got a feel for Tesla, the poor company here just going about their business, executing their plans, doing their thing, and next minute the US government just wants to throw billions of dollars at them for no reason. Sucks to be Tesla. Sucks even more to own Tesla stock. Everything in today's video just ties together so perfectly. Now, a few visual representations of EV adoption moving at an exponential rate, defying every expert prediction, apart from those super insane folks like the guys and girls over at Rethink X, shout out to Tony Sieber and co. And again, going back to my comments around this Inflation Induction Act and having not done the fucking math on these EV incentives. This is a very short tweet thread from Sam Kouros of ARK Invest. Do we live in a linear world? This is global battery electric vehicle sales. The question is, where do we go from here? And by the way, Sam, what an amazing question. So, let me ask a question, ladies and gentlemen. Where do we go from here? If you're an expert forecaster, you obviously would assume we'll go completely flat from here. Maybe by 2030, we'll get to about 10 million electric vehicles. I would suggest that that's probably slightly underestimating how quickly this transition happens. This is an almost flawless exponential growth curve. Do you guys remember some of the arguments from the Dolty Tesla bears a couple of years ago, 2016?
Oh my god, global EV sales aren't even 1 million, the whole market's 90 million. What? They don't matter, who cares? Tesla's going bankrupt.
Awkward to point out, but this is ridiculous. 2020, global EV sales just over 2 million. 2022, approaching 8 million. But sure, the plans from legacy automotive manufacturers to go bankrupt later this decade, claiming that 50% of all their vehicles produced by 2030 or 2035 will be electric, and that's their plan. And they're definitely on track, nothing to worry about there. They haven't massively underestimated how quickly EV adoption takes place, and if you disagree with me, you understand exponential growth. Second tweet in this thread from Sam, you can fit a diffusion curve to EV adoption quite well. I mean, on screen now, that is about as clean of an exponential curve as you will ever see. Again, the question, where to from here? That diffusion curve suggests roughly 59 million EVs sold globally in 2027, which is in line with ARK's expectations. You know, this would be a great time to fact check myself. Let me dig into my private assumptions for EV adoption. I don't share these publicly. They are behind the scenes in my Tesla valuation model. I like to stress test my assumptions. So let's have a look. Where am I at for EV adoption in 2027? EV adoption 2027, God damn, I'm good. This is ridiculous. You can't make this shit up. My current 2027 EV adoption estimate, how many EVs will be sold globally in 2027, is 57,655,209. Way off ARK's own estimates, therefore I'm probably wrong. This is why I stress test my assumptions. Of course, I could have been completely off and that might give me pause. It's also possible that both ARK and myself are completely off the mark and super deluded. But it's interesting, isn't it? I find myself coming up with very similar estimates to both Tesla internally, shout out to the 2024 Robotaxi rollout, and ARK Invest with their EV adoption. Of course, I sound crazy at the time. We'll just have to see how things play out. But isn't it interesting? Independent of this, ARK have their own estimates. I have my own estimates and we're almost exactly in line. I'm off by like 2 or 3%. Now, this isn't proof of how quickly adoption happens, but it is curious. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you will actually remember I have shared my EV adoption estimates in the past, maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago, somewhere around there. So if you do want to go fact check me and just make sure I didn't make this number up to look like a genius, Go for your life. Back to the tweet. So ARK Invest, based on an exponential increase in EVs, 59 million EVs sold globally by 2027. Now, a linear forecast over the past few years would suggest just 21 million EVs sold globally and is in line with some other EV forecasts. Let's look at this in detail. Purple, historical EV sales. Green, modelled EV adoption curve. And in the pink here, linear EV sales from 2020 to 2022. Most experts are forecasting linear growth in EV adoption, and I'm sure the dolts behind the Inflation Induction Act have done the same.
All the experts think it's going to be linear, so they're right.
That's how they've done the math, and by done the math I mean not actually done the math and don't realise how much they're committing to spending on these battery incentives. Of course, we'll just have to wait and see. Nobody knows how things will play out, only time will tell. And the final tweet in this thread from Sam, simple question. Do we live in a linear world? That is quite the question, Sam, and don't know why you would post this. It appears to be adoption of technologies over the last 100 or so years. Percent of US households, 100 at the top, 0 at the bottom. Okay, interesting. We've got the telephone here, automotive, electricity, radio, refrigerator, stove, clothes washers, clothes dryers, air conditioning, dishwasher, microwave, color TV, computer, VCR, cell phone, internet. I may be mistaken here, but it appears we're looking at a number of exponential adoption curves, like all of them. And what's more interesting is an acceleration in the trajectory. Notice how quickly cell phones went from 0% to almost 100%. Same with the internet. So going back to the question from Sam here, do we live in an exponential world? Something I believe legacy automotive manufacturers have absolutely not figured out. Nor any of the folks self-immolating in such brilliant articles as everybody's favourite Mark Toilet Boy Spiegel back in 2014, writing that Tesla's plans of selling 500,000 electric vehicles per year in 2020 were absurd. Poor guy, linear thinker. Linear results. The short story, EV adoption is happening way faster than just about anyone thinks. The one exception, of course, being Tesla. This does not end well for legacy automotive manufacturers who were either idiotic and didn't even talk to experts, or more likely did talk to the experts and assumed that they were experts and therefore knew what they were talking about with their linear projections for EV adoption. The entire world laughed at Tesla's totally absurd plans.
500,000 EVs by 2020, are you high, bro?
And now that these have come to pass, you do have to ask the question, when will the penny drop? When will the world, especially automotive manufacturers, figure out how quickly this transition is happening? Personally, I think for most of them, it's already far too late. They still have no idea how quick this is going to happen. And the final few years of each of these companies' existence will be something along the lines of, we're accelerating our plans for EVs because it's happening faster than we thought. 2 quarters later, we're investing even more in EVs because it's happening faster than we thought. A few quarters later, we're diluting shareholders, raising more capital to build more factories because we didn't realize how fast things were transitioning. A few quarters later, we are filing for bankruptcy. Rest in peace, our shareholders. The big question I have is, will General Motors be bankrupt before Tesla gets approval to expand their operations in Germany? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you guys and girls have enjoyed the video, and a quick heads up, probably going to get myself cancelled. If you're a member on Patreon, you've probably already seen it drop. For those who aren't, if you're interested, I just posted a real-time reaction to Andrew Tate's 41 Tenets. If you'd like access to that, plus well over 100 other exclusive videos on all manner of topics, including Tesla, investing, and plenty of things that'll probably get me cancelled one day, head over to Patreon with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment. All Patreon supporters gain access to my library of videos, plus instant up-to-date access to my Tesla stock price targets out over the next decade, which, believe it or not, actually do factor in exponential growth in EV adoption. Fancy f***ing that. So, see you over on Patreon. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel and instantly unlock over 100 exclusive videos, plus my 10-year Tesla stock price targets and loads of other perks, including optional access to my Tesla valuation model, join our growing community of thousands of supporters on Patreon with the link in the pinned comment. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. Please let me know your thoughts on today's video in the comments below, and click the card on screen now to watch the next video.